did.
Oh,
Well, I thought we were doing intro music. I was kind of shocked. We're just like live all of a sudden.
we were already past the intro. We were
That's
past the point of no return.
That's a good point. It is 9 o'clock, 9:05 actually. Oh man. Well, it's roomier in here, as you can tell. We're missing two of our cohorts, Joe and what's the other guy's name? The blonde-haired guy, Stefanovic. Yeah. So if you guys hadn't noticed, Joe and Chris are gone. Joe is currently sending gift cards to Zimbabwe. Chris is in his underground bunker because they got snow in California, so he doesn't really know what to do with it. Long story short, they didn't want to get moist with us, so they're not here tonight. But thank you guys for showing up. Jesus Fish, Jason, I see Objute. Jason Objute's in the house.
Yep.
Hambone, what's up, Hambone? Who's this guy? Al Anonymous. Randy Ravioli, what's up, man? Hopefully you got your pants on this time. You know, I saw Randy in the chat the other day, and he said he was bored, so I told him to go do some push-ups. So I assume right about now he's ripping the sleeves off of his shirt.
He could stand to bulk up a little bit, eat his protein.
Yeah. Turn some of them sour cream and noodles into muscles. What's up, Minky Mutu, Chipmunk, Ryan, Huseman, sorry. Didn't mean to get your name wrong. Jonathan Hughes, Cyborg Sheep, you greasy-haired bastard. So we have a super duper special guest tonight, Mr. Eugene Silberstein. I don't know, he's not the smartest guy that we've ever had on the show, because we have had a lot of smart guys on the show, but I'll say he's like top 10, right? He seems like a super smart guy.
Probably top 5.
Ever. Yeah, he's up there. I mean, the list of books he's written alone speaks for themselves.
Yep.
But he's from ESCO. He's the guy in charge of training at ESCO, correct?
I don't know his title. Should we ask him?
Yeah, we should. Yeah, let's bring him on the show. I think that's why he's here.
All righty.
Big round of fake applause for Mr. Eugene Silberstein, which, by the way, everybody out there, he prefers Eugene, not Gene. I made the mistake of calling him Gene before the show, and he swore at me. So don't make that.
That would
mistake.
never happen again.
Don't make that mistake.
Yeah, and he almost got fired because of your thumbnail, Bill. Nice.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a quick second. I heard the vice president of your company had some feelings about the thumbnail of our show.
Well, I didn't see it, so he actually sent it to me and asked me if it was legit. So I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then he emailed it to me. I'm like, I have no idea.
I don't know who these people are. That's usually what happens.
Yeah,
people ask if
I don't know
with us.
They're stealing my identity. I don't know. Are they selling books about moisture? I don't understand this.
Yeah, but you said I was top 5, so that means you only had 5 guests on the show.
Oh no.
No,
we've had 6.
Wow. So
one of them was a janitor. So
there you go. Okay, cool. Yeah, my nephew's a competitive bodybuilder, and he called me up and he told me that he placed 5th in a bodybuilding competition. So I thought that was really cool.
Really?
And then I asked him how many people competed in his division, and he said 5. So yeah, you said top 5, so automatically.
So he's like the fattest bodybuilder then.
I guess so.
Yeah. See, next time you see him, you can be like, "Well, you look less fat." See, you look less fat this time.
You're placing at least, right?
Yeah.
But you know what? He's bigger than Lou Ferrigno, so he actually has a picture with Lou Ferrigno, and he dwarfs him. So it was pretty
really
cool. But yeah, so my executive vice president emailed me that little picture, your promo thumbnail, and so he asked me, he goes, "What's up with this?" I'm like, I have no clue what that is.
Did he threaten any sort of legal actions against?
Not yet.
Okay,
he'll probably poke in tonight, see what's going on, and then I guess based on the results, he'll decide. So Jason's on, so maybe he'll report back. And
we're actually our lawyer is getting quite a bit of business out of us. We're in the middle of a lawsuit with National Comfort Institute, The Simpsons, and Jim Davis as well too.
Oh yeah, Jim Davis. Don't forget Jim Bergman too. He's suing us for what's that one where we slander, where we slander his character?
I don't know.
Yeah, defamation. That's the one. He's suing us for
So that means I have to
defamation.
call my lawyer tomorrow.
Yeah, you should
I have one
probably.
speed dial. I have one speed dial, so we can definitely get ready for that.
You should probably have some paperwork filed after this show tonight, just
No
to
worries.
make sure everything's clear with your publishers, your cohorts at work. Well, at least your vice president saw it. I'm glad your company kind of pops in there, checking up on things, making sure people aren't just out there using your name for their own good and benefit.
Well, yeah, actually, with my publishing company, I have to Google myself once a week. It sounds pretty disgusting, but yeah, just to see if there's anything out there that is inappropriate, unflattering.
Now, which version of your name do you Google? Is it
Yeah.
Silberstein?
Yeah, sometimes it's Gene Silberstein, sometimes it's Eugene Silberberg, sometimes it's Eugene Silberstein. Yeah, so I Google everybody.
Now,
So
if we do, before the show, we had a short conversation with Eugene, and he was telling us about the mishaps that the publishers have made, and various other people who publishes his name in books and articles and whatnot, and all the variations of his name that they have published. And you even said that in the Library of Congress they have your name wrong. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was partially my fault, because when I first published my heat pump book, when they were first submitting everything for that back in 2000, I decided to go by Gene. So all the paperwork I signed, all the contracts I signed for the book, it was Gene Silberstein. And then my family caught wind of it, and they started yelling at me because that's not your name. So I said, all right, well, we'll change it. So we'll go by Eugene. But the paperwork was already filed with the LOC. So the publishing company had to do a second submission. So they kind of duplicated. So once the book finally published, then Barnes and Noble had spelled my name wrong. So they listed me as Eugene Silberberg. So my first textbook on heat pumps, the first edition of that book, I keep getting that one, right? It's actually 3 authors on my first book. So the 3 authors are Gene Silberstein, Eugene Silberstein, and Eugene Silberberg. So I have to split the royalties with 3 people, of which I are all 3.
See, and that's why your family was getting so upset, I bet.
Yeah, but it's funny because I was writing a book for Cengage, and it was for the National Association of Home Builders. They have what's called the Residential Construction Academy series, and I was invited to write the HVAC book, and they prepared the slicks. I collect book slicks, so the books I've written, they send me the paperwork, the actual sheet of paper that covers the front, the back, and the spine of the book. So it's actually what wraps the book, and then I have them laminated hanging on my walls. And they sent me the slick for this book, and it was the slick looked great. It was awesome, and it was the author was Eugene Silberstein. So Silberstein, yeah. So I said, the book, the slick looks great. I said, but you forgot the L in my name. So they were really apologetic, and they redid the slick. They sent it out to me, and now the slick said, author Eugene L, middle initial L, Silberstein, and I don't have a middle initial, so it was kind of interesting. You would think the publishing companies would.
They could at least Google it.
How many books do you have? Right? Can they just look at one of the old?
Yeah, we have a bunch of books. I mean, between lab manuals and and different editions of books, I have 17 books right now.
Wow,
that's pretty cool. I can eat meat this week.
I need to
fill up my bookshelf, so I have to write more books.
So when you were younger, were you aspired to be an author, or how did that come about?
No, man. You know what? This is really funny because growing up, I hated everything about school. I hated teachers. I hated school. I hated going to class. I hated reading. I hated writing. I despised it all.
That's a wild concept.
Absolutely despised it. And usually you can trace your career back. You can trace your career path back to 1 or 2 bifurcation points, 1 or 2 tipping points that kind of drove.
Yeah, there has to, where was the spark?
Yeah, well, you know what? It's funny because I started in this industry back in 1980. I was 14 years old. My old man was in the industry, and he dragged me into it. And I'll fast forward to the mid 90s, 1993, and I was still working with my dad. We had the opportunity. We owned 3 service companies in New York City, and pretty successful. And we decided that we couldn't work together, so I was going to leave and get another job in the industry. And I was actually going through the newspaper. I don't know if you guys know what newspapers are, or the people listening to the show. It's actually.
Oh, you mean insulation?
Yeah, there you go. Wall insulation. Yeah, and I actually answered a want ad for an HVAC technician, and I answered the want ad, and they scheduled an interview, and I showed up at the place for the interview. They were advertising for HVAC technicians, and I answered the ad. I showed up at the place, and it was a technical school. It was a technical school in Midtown Manhattan. And I walked in the front door, and I said, "Listen, here's the address on the paperwork. Here's where I need to go. I think I'm in the wrong place." I answered an ad for an HVAC technician. And they said, "Oh, what's your name?" So I said, "Eugene Silberstein." No, I said Silberstein. And they, "Oh, no, you're in the right place. I'll tell the director of the school you're here." So I waited. They called me into the office, and I said, "I'm really sorry to waste your time. I think I'm in the wrong place." You're like, no, you're in the right place. I'm like, "Yeah, but I answered an ad for a technician. What do you need an HVAC technician for?" "Oh, we don't need HVAC technicians. We need HVAC teachers." I'm like, "Dude, you're the wrong person. Give me something to fix. I'll fix it. I am not a teacher. I want nothing to do." My first bout with college did not end well. And then, I said, "No, I don't. No, give me something to fix. I'll fix it. I am not a teacher. I want nothing to do with a class. I don't want to be within 100 yards of a classroom." And he gave me his speech and said, "You know what? Really great teachers come from the field, and great technicians make good teachers." And he convinced me. And he said, "We're going to help you get your teaching license, and we're gonna help you. We're gonna get you, like I said, we're gonna get you your license. We're gonna get you training, and we're gonna turn you into a great teacher." And reluctantly, I said, "Okay, well, let's give it a shot." And that was really the start of it. I never would have thought that I knew how to write effectively. I never would have thought I would know how to teach effectively.
And so, like,
And
from there, you've never been in a service van, like in a servicing technical capacity since then?
oh, I've been.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would still run service calls, but pretty much on my terms. I was working full time,
that's the best
and
way.
it was pretty interesting because I became a teacher, and my first day of teaching, I was supposed to start a 5-week observation period where I was put in a class with this teacher who was teaching the course that I was supposed to teach. It was a commercial refrigeration class. And I'm all there ready the first day to sit in the back of the room, take notes, and prepare to become an awesome teacher. And that morning, the teacher who I was supposed to shadow, he calls and he quits over the phone. So the chairman of the refrigeration department hands me a set of dry erase markers and said, "Room 601, they're all yours."
Wow.
And that was it. And that first day was a disaster.
I mean, you had
And when
no
you
curriculum. Like,
no, they gave me the curriculum, they gave me the objectives, but when you're coming right from the field, you know what to do when you see certain things. You see this,
mhm.
you do this, but you don't always know why
how to
you
how to
need to
present
do
that though.
what you do.
I'd
To
explain
teach,
it to people.
yeah, give it to me, put it in my hand, I'll do it. But I wasn't trained as a teacher. I didn't know how to teach. And again, now I am. Oh, I got a call from a doctor. I'm not going to pick you up. Sorry about that. So I think it may have been one of you guys texting me that I was doing something wrong. So
No, I only text
yeah,
nudes.
perfect. There you go. So now I'll definitely open my phone. Yeah. So the first day was an absolute disaster. Second day was just as bad. Third day. But what's funny is we were using in class the third edition of the Delmar ITP, now Cengage, the third edition of the refrigeration and air conditioning technology title. So that was the book that was already in the school. And we, that's the third edition. That's the book we're using. See, and that book has Whitman and Johnson on the cover. So those were the two original authors of that book. But that edition, as I learned as I was teaching, had a lot of, technical errors in it. All right. So as we were getting through our classes, we would hear a student say, "Oh, well, Mr. So-and-so, you said X, but the book says Y." And if you're a student and you hear a teacher say something and then the book says something else, typically the students are going to gravitate toward the book because the book is the book. The book, can't be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually So we kept a file of all the pages with the errors in the book. And it got to be a little cumbersome. It got to be a little distracting in the classroom. Well, fast forward 6 months. Here I am. We had a faculty of about 14, 16 HVAC teachers. And our chairman of the refrigeration department retires. He leaves. And now we have no chairman. So at that school, the teachers in the department, they get to choose who they want to be their chairman. So I've never taught 6 months in the classroom, and now I'm the chairman of the refrigeration department. Wow. And I know I got selected to be the chairman because it's a job nobody else wanted. So last man in, okay, you're gonna lead the ship. So one of the first things I actually did as chairman was I pulled that book out of my program. I went to a different publisher and worked great. I get a phone call from the publishing company. It's like, "Oh, Mr. Silberstein, we heard that you canceled all future orders of the textbook. Can we ask why?" And I explained that we had some technical issues. Can we come in and speak to you about it? Yeah, why not? 6 people from the publishing company showed up. It was the acquisitions editor. It was Mr. Bill Whitman, Mr. Bill Johnson, and a few other people from the staff.
So the people who actually wrote the book even showed up.
It was like a strong,
yeah, they showed up. So now I'm trying to figure out why.
Style.
There you go, Tony Two Fingers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out why all the attention? Why are they coming to me? I
heard you've been saying some things about our book.
Well, I didn't know at that time that the school that I worked for was the single biggest purchaser of that book. We bought more copies on an annual basis than any other school in the country. So, when you lose your biggest customer, you want to find out why. So I told them the reasons why, and then, Bill, Johnson had said, you need to back it up. You need to provide proof. So I provided him with the folder with the errors, and he said, "Well, what's it going to take to get the book back into the school?" And I said, "Well, when the book goes to its next edition, I want to review it." So they sent me 5 units of the book to review, and I reviewed them. They said, "Oh, great, now we can start sending the book." I'm like, "Well, the book has 50 units in it. You sent me 5. You have 45 more to go." So within 2 weeks, 2 big FedEx boxes showed up at my house with the tear sheet manuscripts for the entire book. And I reviewed the entire book. And I guess they liked what I did. They thought I could write, and they liked the way I was painting pictures with words.
So you didn't just review it. You gave them cliff notes and provided, I assume, corrections and
content, clarifications, corrections. Just if I'm a student, I mean, you can explain something. We're technicians. We can talk technical all day. But if we're trying to explain to somebody who's learning, we have to explain things differently.
Mm-hmm.
So, so it really, I didn't know I was good at it. I guess that the publishing company liked what I had done. And then they asked me if I would be interested in doing, the ancillary work, like, the support documents, the lecture outlines and the PowerPoints and the test questions. And it just started rolling from there. They started giving me more and more projects. They asked me about writing a heat pump textbook. They asked me about participating with the residential construction series through the National Association of Home Builders. So it just really started progressing from that. And
now,
and I
what
started
edition
home
was that, Eugene? That like that first experience you had with that book, where you're like, I don't want this anymore. Like, what was that next edition where
I
you
was
actually was
well,
that
the
like the
third
second or
edition.
third?
Yeah, the third edition was the book we had at the school. The fourth edition and the fifth edition, I was doing a lot of the ancillary work. Again, the lecture outlines, the PowerPoints, the test questions, and fun things like that.
Oh, okay.
And then, so that was 2 editions behind the scenes. So I got I got my name on the inside cover of the book, and then starting on the 6th edition, and I got my name on the front cover. So I made it to the
To the
prime
big
time.
leagues.
So, yeah. So
Is that when they
that,
can the other?
what was that, Adam? You cut out?
So is that when they shit can the other guys that were on the cover? Did you trump them on the?
Oh man. Oh no. Bill Whitman retired at the 6th edition. Bill Johnson retired a couple of editions later. We lost Bill Whitman a couple of years ago, and then it was basically me. John Tomsick, who came on the front cover on the 4th edition, he retired a couple of editions ago.
Yeah, there's
So
a CMU. There's a Michigan guy in there now.
Yeah.
At least in the.
Well, no, John Tomsick is he was from Big Rapids, Michigan,
Yeah.
and he retired. So I was like the only one left who wasn't, retired or dead. So luckily, Jason Objud and I met a bunch of years back, and we became really, really good friends. And dude can write. Dude is awesome. So I asked Jason if he would like to, to join me and work with me on the book. So Jason came on with the 9th edition of the book. Book did really, really well, and we're presently working on the 10th edition. So, and Jason, I mean, he's a superstar. I mean, he's involved with all of the A2L curriculum and the flammable refrigerants, and he's on committees. So I'm blessed to have him with
When
me.
can we
on
see
this.
the 10th edition on bookshelves near us?
March 11th,
no.
2004.
Oh, okay.
That's
So we still got a little ways to go.
expected publish date. So I know people competing publishing companies don't want to hear that right now. But yeah, we are looking at a 3/11/24 on the shelf date, which means Jason and I aren't going to be able to sleep for the next few months.
With the racked manual, I've read it, and actually I got it on my list of. I need to read it again. But the one thing I will say about that book is it seems to be written more for engineers. Now you're an engineer by trade, correct? Well, not by trade, but you have an engineering background, engineering degree. So do you think maybe that's why do you think actually is it geared more towards engineers, or do you feel like it's written more for the common man? Because I felt it was a lot of engineer speak.
You know what? We try and limit that. There are certain things that if you're explaining, you need to get a little technical. But for the most part, the vision of Bill Whitman and Bill Johnson was always to create a book that was more hands-on, geared toward the technician, geared towards somebody who's trying to learn the industry. There is a lot of engineering data out there. And what we try and do is we try and take a compound sentence and break it down into 2 or 3 easier to understand and digest sentences,
right,
and try and simplify a lot of the terminologies and concepts.
Throw some pictures in there.
Yeah, man. The last thing we want to do is intimidate somebody who wants to get into our industry. We want to make it, we don't want to put it out of grasp. I mean, when I was going through college, I had professors who would teach at a very, very high level. And if you had questions, they would just simply repeat what I said the first time in a slightly different tone, but they wouldn't change what they're saying. And that was a real challenge. And especially when you're writing a book. And what I tell people when they're thinking about writing a book, thinking about writing content, when you're in a classroom and you're teaching, your students can see you, They can hear your different changes in tone, in volume. They can see your body language. You as a teacher can see your students' facial expressions, get feedback, verbal, nonverbal. And they can ask you questions if something's unclear. But if you're writing a book, if you're writing a manual, they don't have the ability to ask you a question.
Right.
So you want to be able to paint pictures with words so that the reader will be able to understand what it is you're saying. And a challenge with that is trying to predict what somebody will ask you about what you wrote. So really solid writing is talking about something, but also addressing questions preemptively that somebody might have as they're reading. And I think that's what makes it successful. And we try not to gear it toward engineers because, like I said, there are tons of engineering books out there.
Right.
Like I kind of feel like once you reach a level of super genius like yourself, and you're writing all these books where people are looking at them like, I can't believe like this came out of somebody's brain. I kind of feel like maybe you need to have a panel of dumb people look over that book and be like, I don't know any of this stuff. Can you explain it a little bit better?
Bill's like nominating us to be on your panel.
Yeah, like like we could be the younger version of you, just not as smart. But we're like, I'm sorry. I mean, can you explain it with sticks and apples? Because I don't know.
But Bill, that's what it takes sometimes. You need, you know what? Talk about transistors. All right. This is one of my most favorite things to talk about. And when you talk about transistors, you can talk about N material and P material and doping and silicone and germanium. And I teach transistors with this, with a plumbing tee. And this is how I teach transistors. And inside this transistor plumbing tee is a little piece of wire, right? And if you push inside here, that wire actually moves and it opens and closes a path for right? Mm-hmm. So think about
like an electrical check valve.
Well, think of what a relay does. A relay has a coil. When we apply voltage to the coil, contacts close or open, depending if we're normally closed or normally open. So when I teach a transistor, think about the main path, which is what we call our collector emitter path. And then we have as the coil. And think about your collector emitter as the contacts, the normally closed contacts. So if I had that piece of wire right now blocking, if I took a ball and I dropped it in the top, it would fall right. It couldn't go through because the wire is blocking. But now, if I apply voltage pressure and I push in at the T, the base, now it moves that wire out of the way. So now I apply voltage to the base of that transistor, and now I open up this path. So, yeah. So I teach complicated topics with stuff. So yeah,
simplified.
Apples and sticks. Yeah,
we had Jim Bergman on the show actually a couple times. And one of the times we were asking him questions about the different nuances of Measure Quick, right? And one of the topics came up, and I know we discussed this also in the past with Michael Hausch, was what is all this ACFM and SCFM craziness in Measure Quick? Like, what does it all mean, And he went back, and that's how I found that book. And he's like, well, when I was teaching at the vocational school, we always skipped over chapter 1, and like nobody needs to know any of this. That's where we went. And he's like, that's literally in the first chapter of the book you need to read to learn. That is like the first thing you need to learn is all that stuff. I'm like, huh. And then I started kind of diving down, and it's kind of a confusing topic in a sense. You have to wrap your mind around it. And then I started looking at your pressure enthalpy. I heard you on Brian's podcast, and then also the psychrometrics, which That's an amazing book. Both of those are great books. If you guys haven't read them, I'd pick them up.
Psychometrics Without Fears.
Yeah.
And the basics.
And I thought it was all going to be directly correlated, the entire book, with psychometrics, but you talk about duct balance, like air balancing. You kind of veer off on a couple great topics. I really enjoyed that book thoroughly. I just got through it about a week and a half ago.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, you know, it's those. Yes, we have the refrigeration air conditioning technology book, the 1728-page 9-pound doorstop. But all of the instrumentation that we have now, you know, it's really a means to an end. So the instrumentation that we have now, it's very high tech. It allows us to do our jobs more effectively and efficiently, but we still need to understand the basics, the fundamentals. So two books that are really near and dear to my heart are my Psychometrics Without Tears book and my Pressure Enthalpy Without Tears book. And I fought long and hard internally about what to call these books. And I've taken a lot of more complicated content and brought it, and I won't use the term dumbing it down because I hate that term, but it really takes it and simplifies it, and to a point where a student who's learning HVAC or even somebody who's in the field can actually get a better understanding of what it is, air is, how it behaves, how it functions. And the pressure enthalpy book is really a 30,000-foot view of a basic refrigeration cycle. You know, what happens when a filter gets clogged? What happens when you have an internal leak on a compressor? What happens when a condenser coil gets dirty? We know as a technician, oh, when the condenser coil gets dirty, the system don't work good. Okay, I get that. But what's actually happening? So the pressure enthalpy book really is empowering to create a physical picture of, and you can evaluate that system, and by evaluating the shape, is it shifting up and to the left, down and to the right, you know, and just looking at how that picture is shifting and how it changes, how its shape changes. And you can understand, okay, well, this is what's happening to the subcooling. This is what's happening to the sous vide. This is why, you know, I stand a chance of getting liquid back into my compressor. So it's really, my mantra has always been, and I start every presentation I've ever done with this, and it says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And my goal with those two books is really just to change the way we look at air, how we look at refrigeration cycle, and just to give us a more holistic view of what's going on inside that system.
Now, out of all your books, Eugene, which book is your favorite?
Oh man, again, the first book I wrote was my heat pump book, so that one holds a real, special place in my heart. The pressure enthalpy book Without Tears, that's one of my favorite, because that's a book that I wrote back in 06. I was teaching these concepts to my students. I was blessed. I was given the opportunity to write, direct, and teach my own college program. And that program kicked off in New York in 2003. And I was approached and asked if I would be interested in again, writing, directing, and teaching this program. And I was teaching pressure enthalpy. Pressure enthalpy is something that I've loved for a long, long time. And my students that started the program in 2003, they graduated in 2006, and they were like, where is this stuff? Where is this information that you're teaching us? And I was like, it's nowhere. It's buried in ASHRAE handbooks, but written in, again, engineering speak, which most people don't want to read. So my students, my graduating class of 2006, said, you have to put this down on paper. You have to write this. And at that time, I was very, very dear friends with the gentleman. You probably know Dan Holohan. So right. So Dan Holohan,
another great author.
Oh man, Dan and I are very, very, very he
Choppy.
when I got my program, he is just an all around great guy, and he was speaking, and I would, and he would hear me, and he like, you need to write down, and he pushed me. The Pressure Enthalpy Without Tears book. My graduating students in 2006 at the college pushed me to write that book. So that book is probably my favorite one because it was written because a person who I absolutely look up to Dan, and my students. That was my first graduating class, and they pushed me, said, you have to write this, you have to write this. So that one is definitely the most special of everything because it ties back to the emotions of my students. It's telling me I needed to do it. The gentle poking and prodding from Dan Holohan saying, dude, you need to write. You need to write. The heat pump book I wrote. Okay. Yeah, man, sorry.
See, now I'm all excited to read I want the 10th edition, but I have to wait a whole year, so I'm gonna have to go with the 9th edition. So, like, I don't currently have the 9th. I don't know. I got the 7th or the 6th, or I don't know which one I got now. It's on my bookshelf, but I'm all excited now to get the 9th at the very least and read it.
It's cool. It's cool. Like I got to put my stink on the book. Jason got to put his stink on the book. So it's come a long way since since the
do you guys need
one.
somebody to like put it over into an audio version for you? Like, I'll sit down, I'll read it, and we'll record it, and we'll sell it to Amazon.
I have to speak to my team because we had audiobooks, and I think, I don't know if it's in the plan for the 10th edition. But yeah, no, you have the perfect voice for that. But you could also put your own little stink on it, if you see refrigerator leaking out of here, dumbass, then close the valve. That'd be pretty cool. We'll have the Bill Russell stink.
I mean, I'd buy the audiobook. I'm not gonna lie.
Hell,
I actually had someone, at Brian Orr's event in Florida this year, I actually had 2 contractors that came up to me and was like, listen, I really can't read. I have trouble reading. I'm absolutely dyslexic. I can't read. If you have the audiobook, I would love to get a hold of that, and I can listen to it. And we were chatting, and I was like, listen, so would an audiobook be good? And then kind of like a picture book with the figures, like a book without all the words in it, just the pictures. And he goes, that would be awesome. If you can do that, that would be great.
I'm not dyslexic, but reading, especially when it comes to technical stuff, it almost immediately puts me to sleep. And I'm always kind of getting on Adam about this because Adam's like over here, like, I'm reading manual S and T, and
it's not as easy as you like think it is for me. So like, I have the same problem that I think a lot of people have, where you go through and you read a page
5 minutes,
and you're like,
I'm tired.
What did I just read? And sometimes you have to go back and read it over again, and especially when there's kids yelling in the house, my wife's screaming at me to freaking hang ductwork or do something else, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, there's other things going on all the time. So it's hard to focus on what you're reading.
So
what's the secret? Time. Yeah, you need to set time to read technically. If you're reading a novel, it's a different part of your brain that's really processing technical information. So
I've shifted it to like morning time, where I have my morning coffee and I sit down and I try to read something technical. Like right now I'm on an electrical book from a Sofessa book, which it seems like it's written by somebody who's illiterate. But other than that, it's somewhat technical. But I found morning time is a little bit better. I don't get as sleepy. But yeah, it's difficult to read some of that tech stuff.
And everybody's different. Some people can read technical in the morning. So I can't put it this way. So we get a lot of legislation. We get a lot of, bills that are going through Congress and going through the houses, and we get it across our desks from the EPA and different organizations. And I mean, it doesn't matter what time of the day it is for me. I cannot read that stuff. So luckily on our staff, meaning we have Jason can read legislation, and he can read it one time and he'll be able to summarize it for you, which I always read the summaries. I wait for Jason to read it. And then our executive vice president, Howard Weiss, he could take legislation, read it, digest it, and tell you and give you a 1-paragraph summary of what this 30-page piece of legislation said.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So
that's like a
I don't have the
superpower.
brain for that. Yeah, I don't have the brain for that. But we have a really, really good team where we work that we all excel at different things. And
so that's where the audio files come into play in the podcast and the new style of learning, if you will.
Yeah, this is actually really cool hanging with you guys, because this was absolutely nerve-wracking for me just to to go on these things. And we started doing more and more of them, and we have our own webcast.
Save your nervousness for when you go on a show where they ask you smart people questions. we're just over here like, can you explain books to us? How do books work?
Well, yeah, the problem is when you keep trying to open up the spine end, that's usually what happens. When the book stops working, it's usually good if you flip it over, or turn it around.
I will say, like all joking aside, I went into the conversation, or I went into the idea of having the show with you about, as the thumbnail indicated, like, we're going to have like a moist party. We're all going to get moist from this conversation. But, going into like the pre-show sort of conversation, I was like, everything that I've heard about you or read about you, it's always the technical stuff. It's always like, how does this work? How does that work? And how does, explain psychometrics to us? And I was like, as we were progressing, I was like, I bet a lot of people don't actually get to talk to you on this level of like, what do you think about books? What do you think about your career and how did this start? And I think this is a much better conversation than we'll save the psychometrics talk for the next.
But I do think people, if you're interested, you should pick up these books. They really break
100%.
They dumb things down to the level where you can. I'm not saying, it's a great book. I've never understood it. And to be honest with you, I've been doing HVAC for 20 years. And to ask the question, what is ACFM, and have Jim Bergman look back in disgust at us, I'm like, he's like, dude, that's chapter 1 of the book to read. I'm like, okay, I'm an idiot. I'm sorry.
But you know what? When we're in our industry, when you're
Eugene
in
was just disgusted by you too, Adam.
No. I'm just when you're in the industry for 20 years, right? There's a certain level of expectations. So it's all about the training we receive. And I say this all the time: wherever you go to school, wherever you learn, right? Even if you're learning from another technician out in the field, if a teacher doesn't know something, or if you're working with a technician and that technician doesn't know something, then they can't teach it. If they don't teach it, then you can't learn it. If you don't learn it, you can't. So it's all really about the information we've been exposed to. Think about the vast majority of people in our trade. The majority of people in our trade had no formal training in HVAC. Most people did not go to school to learn HVAC. So how did we learn? We learned from people in the field, and those people themselves learned from other people in the field. So a lot of us learn OJT. We're on the job training and we're learning, we're shadowing people, we're learning. And then where does the industry get their teachers from? They get their teachers from the field. So now we have somebody in front of a classroom who's teaching something that they were never formally trained on without being formally trained how to teach.
So they come up with like a lot of rules of thumb and sort of
and rules of thumb. We all know rules of thumb are there to get you in deep trouble. We usually call them rules of dumb, but rules of again, if you understand the theories, if you understand the concepts of what's going on, then it really doesn't matter what you're faced with. But everybody's level of understanding is really, really a result of not necessarily what schools we went to, but the teachers we had. Because at my school, all right, I So I'm teaching a class, and Adam, you're teaching a class. You and I are working at the same school. We have the same set of objectives. We have the same learning outcomes that we have, and Adam and I, we teach very, very differently. My theory is, if you're going to get an A in my class, you need to know this stuff as well as I do. You need to be able to teach it to get an A in my class. Adam, on the other hand, he's happy that the guys aren't out in the street shooting heroin, drugs. So his mentality is, as long as they're in class and they're trying, I'm going to give them an A. So at the end of the semester, Adam's students get A's, and my students are getting mostly C's with a couple of B's, but absolutely no A's. So at the end of the day, who got a better education? Who's smarter? Well, you could look at the grade report. You could look at the transcript and say, oh, well, Adam's students all got A's and Silberstein's students are a bunch of idiots because they all got C's. But so we all talk at ESCO. I mean, we talk not about comparable training, because there is no comparable training, because Adam and I both teach at the same school, but it's all about comparable outcomes. What does that individual actually know? So yeah, whether you know about SCFM and ACFM, again, it's not really indicative of where you went to school or where you learned. It's who taught you. Who was the individual who taught you? And I have to, again, I mean, this is kind of rough. I grew up in this industry. My old man was in the industry. My old man was in this industry for 50 years. I was always the kid who was asking questions. Oh, you go to a job, you see this, you do this. Oh, but why? And my old man was, no, you don't know. You don't need to know why. All you need to know is you see this, you do this. People give you money, and then you go somewhere else and you repeat the same thing.
Yeah.
So my background was, I needed to answer questions. I needed to answer those whys. So I started doing research at a very young age. I taught myself HVAC, and I taught myself this industry because my father was very reluctant to answer questions. And I realized later on in life that he wasn't answering my questions because he didn't know either. If he knew, then he would have told me.
Or he may have known, but he only knew like at his level, where you put a tool in his hand, he knows what to do, but he doesn't, or he maybe wasn't able to internalize it enough to teach it.
Yeah. I kind of grew up learning in the field, and I think that's a great way to kind of get your hands dirty, but like to learn all the science behind everything, and not so much. And I was kind of in the same boat that you were in, where certain things didn't make sense to me, and I started asking questions, and I'm like, well, you have these two gauges, and I hear you just get it up to this pressure. Like, what are all these other numbers on here mean? Like, what? I don't get it. Like, what does it mean?
And like, to add to that, I've oftentimes like tried to have these sort of scientific conversations in the field with guys, and by no means am I top 5 genius. I mean, look at my bookshelf compared to your bookshelf. You'll figure it out. But I would try to have these conversations with these guys and explain like the theories, or ask them what they thought about the theories. And it's just like an overwhelming majority of them are just like, hey, dude, I know the TXV is a metering device. I don't need to know anything else about it. I don't care to know anything else about it, and after a while I figured out like, hey, there's more people like me on the interwebs. So I came here, and we kind of all collided, and here we are, sort of thing. But I don't know, like with that being said, would you like what would be some good advice to give some of these technicians coming up? Like, obviously, learn as much as you can, but words of wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, especially somebody getting out there. It's like we didn't rely as heavily on the internet, and the mentality really should be just on the internet is true. So right now we have.
It's like doing an interview with the author of Mad Libs.
anybody can put. Yeah, there you go. So
I'm gonna go back and I'm
what
gonna edit
I
words
always
in there.
tell,
Balls, pizza.
He's laughing because your internet has been choppy the last so
oh really?
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
That's okay. We're gonna go
So,
back
yeah,
and
if you
edit
just
it.
throw-
Like
He said balls.
Maybe to make
put
it
balls in
30.
there. I'm gonna put balls in there a lot. Sorry, Eugene. You don't need to wait for us. Or is he froze?
I don't know. He might be froze or might be disgusted.
Or he might just be looking at me in complete disgust.
I can definitely see it going either way.
You guys are the
we
dumbest people I've ever had. Oh, he's back. Oh, I think he was
Yeah,
back.
I don't know what happened.
Hey, Dustin Cole, you just calm down out there.
Are we good? Am I live?
There we go. There we are. Yeah. You kind of froze up on there.
And it's funny because I'm looking at myself and I'm keeping myself amused, and and I didn't realize that we weren't choppy. But
that's all right.
What my suggestion? It happened again.
No, we're good.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. Yeah, so my advice for students and also for new technicians is, seek out information, but seek vetted, reliable information. So go to, you want to avoid going to Jim Bob's Landscaping and Airconditioning.com, for advice on how to change a compressor.
That's an amazing concept.
Yeah. You want to make certain that you're going to vetted sites to get your information. Like, we have so much information at our fingertips now. And like I said, a lot of it's crap. And you want to make certain that you're getting good information. And that's the best advice I can give. Whatever books you use, it's like people think that like the authors of the other big books in the industry, that we all don't get along, that we fight. And we're But just go to vetted sources. Just get real information from manufacturers, from trusted publishing companies, from trusted organizations. And Jim Bob's Landscape and Air Conditioning might be really, really good, at trimming your grass and fertilizing your lawn, but
and throwing Freon in your condenser when it needs it.
Yeah, well, if a little bit of Freon.
I think the transistor on his modem failed.
It's the storms in California.
Oh, the ice storms?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
We have a lot of rain.
So now where you're at,
we have a
Eugene,
lot of rain.
It's you're not anywhere like higher in elevation. I know you said you're over in Temecula, I think you said, but you're not high enough.
So I'm midway between. No.
Any snow in the higher parts out there? Nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I could see some of the mountains from my house. They're like 2 hours north of me that have snow, but I don't have snow. We get snow like once every 10 years.
Oh yeah. That's what Chris said. Chris is currently stuck in a snowstorm right now. He's stuck behind an icicle.
It's all good. He just didn't want to hang with me. He's fine.
Joe flat out told us, I'll be honest with everyone here, because I think everyone deserves honesty, right? What do you think, Bill?
I mean, if we're out in Joe, I'm all about it.
All right, I'm bringing him out, all right? This is what he told us yesterday. Joe told us that he wanted to talk to his girlfriend on the phone tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he's not going to be able to make it to the show because he wants to have a conversation with her.
And he's got to have all of his headspace, and he just can't deal with the show and the conversation with a real live female, which I'm still sure it's some dude from Zimbabwe who's just trying to get money out of him. But someday he'll figure that out. When he's like, guys, I don't have any money. I mailed all my credit cards to Zimbabwe.
Yeah, so that's Joe. And, Joe's probably going to be pissed at me, but hey.
He's not going to go back and watch the show.
Yeah,
he's too busy. Sitting Indian style on the floor with his candles, talking to his girlfriend about their feelings. A bunch of gay bobs.
So, Bill, are you this freaking chair? Something's going on with. I gotta like sit up straight and not lean back because it always just falls. Bill tells me I'm too fat for the chair. That's what it is. But
real
Do you guys
quick,
have the same chair? It kind of looks like the same chair.
it's close. I think I got the Amazon version, and Adam probably got the higher end version
that doesn't work
because he's a basic white person. But
The BW.
I was at the symposium, not this past year, but the previous year, and I got to meet Jason Abjut out there. And I was real upset because they had this sort of, I don't even know what the contest was, but they had, it could have been a random raffle or drawing. But they were raffling off 1 or 2 or 4 of the racked manuals, the 9th editions. And
nice.
he was autographing, and our friend Rick from HVACR Survival Videos there, he won one of them. And I'll tell you, like, I was this close to hitting Rick in the head with a hammer and stealing that book because not only was it the new rack manual at the time, but Jason also signed it. So I need to figure out how to get a signed copy of that manual from you and Jason.
Yeah.
Sign the cover.
Well, Jason and I will be together in Las Vegas next month at our conference. So HVAC Excellence, we run an annual education conference. So that's March 20th through the 22nd in Las Vegas. So we'll be in the same place at the same time.
I mean, I would say, Bill, I'd pick one up and bring it back, for you, but it weighs like 30 pounds. I don't think I want that in my luggage,
No, don't bring your luggage. I mean, just ship it.
Good point.
Ship it. If you could make that happen for me, Eugene, I will send you some overtime swag. How about that? And you can wear that to the office.
Woohoo.
It's very, very appropriate for offices.
It's not the overtime G-string I saw, right?
That's a great idea.
You have we have a Jim Davis edition shirt. You should have a Eugene edition. Getting moist with Eugene.
Let's get moist with Eugene. Yeah,
we can. Jason and I can sign a book. We can make that happen.
Do you sell those books? And are you going to have them, at your stand in Vegas?
No, this is what the book looks like now. But yeah, this is our marked up copy for the getting ready for the 10th edition. So
it's even thicker than what I have.
Yeah, no, 1,728 pages. So we were actually thinking about for the 25th anniversary of that book, the 7th edition. We were thinking about putting a metal cover on it for the silver edition, and
like a real metal cover.
Yeah, real metal with a real hinge. And you know how you have the rolly luggages with the wheels and the handles? We would have had to put wheels on the bottom of the book with the telescopic handle.
Hold on. I bought this book. Let me call U-Haul to get some guys over here to help me move it.
Yeah, we figured if we did that, we put the metal cover on, we'd end up getting bills from chiropractors and orthopedic surgeons and stuff, for students having to carry it around.
No, you get one like that and you auction it off or you raffle it off or you put it in a museum or something extra special.
Sweet.
Well, I think you should send me some Bill, order the book. I'll bring a book. We'll get two of them signed, one for me, one for you. Screw Chris.
Yeah.
And we'll ship them back.
Yeah.
Very good.
I'll send it to you. When are you going? When is this conference again?
March 20th, I think. I believe.
That's a month away.
20th through the 22nd at it's at the South Point Hotel in Lost Wages, Nevada.
So you and Jason are going to be in the same place, same time in Las Vegas.
Yep. Jason and I are like this, man.
Is he as a wild character as you?
Oh man, I'm the tame one.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you can get information. I'm going to shameless plug. So if you go to ESCO, E-S-C-O group, GROUP.org, and you click on the conference link, you can learn all about it. We're expecting like 900 people.
I'm looking forward to that. I've been talking to several different educators, and one after another, they're like, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. I'm really looking forward to going. it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, and if you read the psychrometrics book, I'm actually doing my psychrometrics without tears class at that event.
Awesome.
On Tuesday afternoon.
Is this going to be recorded and put up on the internet or anywhere at all?
Yeah, we're not going to be recording these sessions. We've been discussing it to see, exploring the possibility of doing that. So at some point we might, but we are running anywhere from 5 to 7 sessions in one time slot, and we have 5 time slots a day. So just the logistics of recording, of having 5 videographers or to 7 videographers
at the same time.
each room. Yeah, so it's a big challenge. So it's something we're discussing internally to see if we can actually make it happen. But it is the conference is not expensive. You go to some 2-day conferences. I mean, this is actually a 3-day event. You go to some conferences and it's $2,000, $3,000. Ours is a couple $100. So it's rough to to verify, or not verify, but to justify the expense of that. But we're thinking about it. Actually, maybe not recording all the classes, but maybe some.
This is sort of the educators conference, right?
You know what? We used to call it the educators conference, and that kind of alienated people who don't consider themselves educators. So we changed the name. So now it's called the education conference.
Okay.
So we have a lot of contractors, technicians out there. Yes, we have a lot of teachers, but we have a lot of school administrators. We even get some webcasters and podcasters show up every so often. So
what I always thought would be cool is if in doing one of these conferences that there was a presentation or a course or some material kind of teaching guys how to be better teachers.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to, become a better teacher, become a better speaker. And I've sort of doing the YouTube videos and stuff. It's kind of helped a little bit. It's helped me internalize things and get better at explaining it a little bit better anyway.
Yeah. But a lot of the courses, a lot of the sessions are geared toward teachers and teaching methodologies, how to better your craft. I know this, how do I teach it? Mm-hmm. So we have sessions that are geared toward new teachers. Again, what to do, what to do in the classroom, how to conduct a class.
I mean, not only is this industry short on good technicians, it's also short on good leaders, good people who know how to do this job and can also teach others how to do this job well and lead them into the future.
It's important because people often say, "Oh, I don't consider myself a teacher." But if you're a technician, if you're a service manager, and you're showing a technician how to do something, or you're even showing a colleague how to do something, you are a teacher. We're all teachers. We're all teachers every day. So to label it, oh, this is for teachers, a lot of times we don't associate with being a teacher, but we are. We are. When we're interacting with somebody, we're explaining something, we're conveying a concept, we're conveying a theory or a procedure or how to do something. We are teachers, and we want to make certain that we do that as effectively and efficiently as we can to make certain that we're helping. So yes, we are all teachers.
Jason Obser says today's technician is tomorrow's teacher.
Truth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or today's technician is tomorrow's junkie if you went to Adam's class.
Yeah.
See, Michael just said I'm a student every day. Yeah, that's perfect. The day you don't learn something, you should learn something every day. The day you don't learn something, that's the day that they're shoveling dirt on you.
Mm-hmm. You have to stay curious.
Absolutely.
Somebody should put that on a shirt.
It's so funny. Actually, at the conference, I actually walked into a session. I sat in the background, in the back of the room, and this teacher turned around and saw me sitting there, and he nudged the guy next to him, and they pointed like, "Oh crap, Silberstein's in the room." And the second teacher turned out and says, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm doing the same thing you're doing. I'm learning. I'm here to listen to the presenter to learn. He's like, you're not supposed to be in here.
You
Like,
got
why?
nothing left to
You
learn.
know, is that like, yeah, is that like a special club you need to be in to?
Well, I
to
mean,
wanna learn?
he probably saw a list of all the books you've written. He's like, he's written a book on literally every aspect of this trade. So, what are we going to teach him?
What does that mean? It means I can paint pictures with words. That's what that means. I'm a guy. I'm just a guy. That's it.
You're
I was given
Thomas Kincaid of HVAC.
I like that. I like that. No, I was just given some really, really awesome opportunities to, to share what I've learned. And, I had the ability, like I said, to paint pictures with words. So I'm just a guy. That's all, So I was a little embarrassed when you said, oh, like top 5. I was like, it's an honor to be mentioned like that, but that's not how I see me. I'm just a guy.
Yeah, neither did the other 4 guys.
Except 1 or 2 maybe, right?
That's all right, though. The janitor had high hopes for himself, but he didn't make it to number 5.
Well, you guys are too much.
Well, guys, I think that's I should wrap it up tonight. We'll have to have you on again, Eugene, and next time I'm gonna bring some smart people questions, or bring some smart people to ask you questions on our behalf. We'll have a more technical conversation is what I'm getting at.
That's cool. But this was really cool. This was just really neat, just chatting about stuff. This was
I would like to say, like, the HVAC school, which I know you did a podcast with them. Anybody else who've ever done any work for, probably never had this sort of conversation. It was probably all technical babble, and so we're leading the industry in firsts, we'll say.
Awesome. There you go. Did you say worsts or firsts?
Either way, it don't matter.
Cool.
We're doing both.
Yeah,
first and the worst. Why is that on a shirt? HVAC Overtime, the first and the worst. Hey, look, it's the coal miner's daughter.
Yeah, it's not very fun out here. If you guys want to know, it's pouring rain.
Are you on a roof?
I'm on a roof in the pouring rain, fixing a walk-in cooler right now.
Man.
Pressure control failed, capillary broke, dumped 14 pounds of gas. So I'm doing a quick repair to get them up and running.
Do a hot swap?
Not a hot swap, but I'm definitely going to be coming back and changing the dryer when it's not raining. So luckily it only broke on the low side capillary, and I don't think it pulled much moisture in. So I'll pull a vacuum and be back to do a big picture repair later. I honestly didn't realize you guys would still be live. I didn't mean to interrupt your conversation.
Sure.
So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Somebody needed some attention.
Yeah, he needed to make sure he was in the spotlight.
Yeah, I got to make sure that people still know I'm alive, So that kind of stuff.
I just wanted to pop in and let you guys know I got some more subscribers while you guys were going live.
Yeah, but all right. Well, I'll let you guys get back to your conversation. I'm sorry.
Take care, Chris.
All right,
Looks like
bye.
he's standing on a submarine or something.
Nope.
And desktop. Trying